This morning on BRN, part 2 of implementing Secure 2.0 provisions. What's relevant now? And we're going to welcome back to the program Andy Larson of the Retirement Learning Center and Michael Beczkowski of Bolton. Mike, Andy, thanks again for joining us this morning for part 2 of our conversation.
It's great to be back. Thank you.
Good to be here, sir.
And we haven't lost a guest yet, so just to point that out to the audience. So we're glad to have you back. This is, again, a very important topic. It necessitates 2 parts. Michael, we talked a lot about Secure 2.0 and what the provisions in yours and Andy's minds made the most sense and had the most bang for the buck. Let's talk about implementation, though, because I think that's so important. And a lot of people say, well, how do I do it? And of course, you need a great advisor, great partner. But are there key provisions that you would prioritize over some others if someone's just saying, hey, what do I do first?
Sure. Very, very good question. What most vendors and consultants are doing is prioritizing the provisions, the optional provisions, by the date that they're made available. So, for example, in 2024, we talked about the terminally ill distributions or federal disaster distributions. In 2025, we'll be talking more about the plan-linked emergency savings, higher catch-ups for individuals 60 to 63, and then the auto enrollment and self-certification as well for hardship distributions. When we look at 2026 and beyond, we're looking at the Roth catch-up provisions that are going to be mandatory, and then also the long-term care distribution, which allows individuals to take monies out as a qualified distribution to help pay for long-term care insurance. So it's really being driven by the year and then also by the vendor's ability to implement this on their system. Not all vendors are implementing these provisions at the same time.
Yeah, Andy, Mike makes a good point. Not all, as we know, you and I were both recovering record keepers, as we determined in the last episode. Prioritization is going to be based on your administrator and whether or not they're ready to go, and whether or not they have the capabilities. But what stands out in your mind as the ones you want to tackle first?
I think if I was still running a record-keeping shop, heaven help me. But if I was, I would be probably having to focus on some of the big ticket items. Yeah. Student loan matching, that's huge. I mean, that's one of the interesting issues that has gotten out into the general public in their minds before us in this industry have caught up, and that's pretty rare. Normally, stuff that's retirement-related stuff isn't all that much talked about in the general public. Student loan matching very much is. Some of the other distribution types, some of the augmented contribution rules Mike mentioned, are also pretty high priority or would be on my list if I was prioritizing. Moving down the list, the next item after that, those things would probably be the pension-linked emergency savings account, PLUSA type features, especially if you've got like large retail and service client base, where I think that's going to be applicable. So the priorities, I think pretty much as Mike noted, there's going to be a lot of them, and we're not done yet. There's even talk now of Secure 3.0, so the fun will continue.
Yep. So Congress, I guess, will be working together in 2025. Mike, let's get down to some brass tacks here. If an employer is watching this, a plan sponsor is watching us, or maybe one of our peers, well, my former peer, but a peer of yours, how do you begin implementing these provisions with the administrator? Because I would imagine you have to figure out what they can offer, and then what you can, based on that, what they're set up for, and then based on that, what you can offer to the client.
Right. It really begins with a meeting with your consultant, if you have one, and the record keeper, your provider, and really to have them take you through an operational checklist of what is mandatory, what is optional, and for what is optional, when it will become available on their system. And some provisions may still require technical guidance, so they can't be implemented, but on a to-do list. Others are being implemented now. And the important thing is it doesn't have to be reflected in the plan document at the end of this year. But anyway, it really begins with that kickoff meeting and going through and reviewing each of the provisions. And I agree with Andy. It's been a great way for committee members to get to know the plan, refresh it, and deal a little bit more with the administrative provisions that guide this.
Yeah, and Andy, just to kind of reiterate Michael's point and a point you made, I mean, there is that you go to these committee meetings or these quarterly meetings, and it really becomes a lot about just checkboxing the investments or the fees. This gives you an opportunity to kind of reset here and think, what is our plan for? Has that changed? Has the goal or the objective changed over time? And what provisions as part of secure do we need to look at?
That's a really good comment. And frankly, a lot of that's what Mike and I do is with the clients, talking to committees about where is this thing going? What can be done to improve the plan, to improve the outcomes? How can we help you work with the board and really get their focus beyond just the plan investments? And we're starting to see that, and I think that's very healthy. And just to be very clear, I'm not saying plan investments aren't important. They certainly are. However, there are other factors and other issues at the macro level we can't forget about.
Yeah, Mike, one of those, and not to go off on a tangent here, but so much of what we have talked about over the last 25, 30 years has been growing assets. But now there's been talk about taking money out. And people, for the first time, are taking money out. They've only had a 401k. They've been taking money out, so retirement income. There's a lot of things that committees need to think about around their plan beyond just the bare bones investments. Again, not knocking that. You need good investment structure. But these other things really weigh heavily to the participation and the activity that goes on in the plan.
That's correct. And it really gets into employee behavior. And I will say some of the provisions in Secure 2.0 have resulted in some great conversations of committee members and if they should be adding provisions or not. So for some committee members who tend to be quiet during meetings, they've actually spoken up when talking about whether we should be adding hardship self-certification to this or qualified birth and adoption. So it really has spurred some great conversations.
Yeah, and Andy, we spent in the first segment, I think we really highlighted, and I think throughout this show, we've done a lot of talk about employer education. And certainly you and Mike do that. There are many others who contribute in that regard as well. But what about participant education? Because you can build the best plan, you can have all these new features, but hey, if you don't use them, what good is it?
Exactly. And I hope I don't get myself in trouble by saying that I think our efforts at employee education have frankly been awful. We've taught or tried to teach employees what's important to us as financial advisors, as financial people, not meeting the employees where they are at. And you've heard me use the term culturization and culturizing. A successful plan ultimately is one that picks up the culture of an organization, hopefully a positive culture, and drives itself, where the employees are excited about it. They encourage their new coworkers to participate. They understand what's going on. It kind of gets a life of its own within the overall organization. And that's what I think the employee education formats and approaches need to change to do more of the soft side of that rather than trying to turn every employee into their own junior investment advisor.
Yeah, Mike, it's a lot more qualitative. In your meetings, committee meetings, and you said there's more of a focus where committee members are really speaking up and learning more. And is there a focus on how do we educate people because they need to use the plan and they can't be the junior investment broker. They need to be just a layperson that understands, hey, what do I need to do?
Right, specifically for Secure 2.0, the comment I've been receiving is, Mike, we're making all these decisions. How do we tell our employees about it? And I'm not sure the record keeper industry is there yet on how to let individuals know that there are these new provisions to let them take money out of the plan in certain qualified events. So I really think that's the next stage after the implementation on the record keeping system is how it will be communicated to participants. We're having those conversations right now with committee members and helping them work with their back offices to make sure their payroll departments or their payroll vendor can handle the age 60 plus provisions. And also if they don't have the mandatory Roth provision for those catch-ups, that they're considering it or it's on their roadmap to building up. I also think just in general with the education, and I agree with Andy on this, is that there has to, it's almost a commoditization, and most individuals just don't get the whole, why is it important saving for retirement at a young age when it matters? And perhaps by talking about some of the provisions, it'll reinforce why this 401k plan or 403b plan or 457b plan exists. So we can start getting these individuals in these plans at a younger age so they can have more money for retirement.
Yep, the power of compounding. Andy, Michael, so great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us over the course of these 2 parts of the program, and we look forward to having you back again very soon. Thanks, gentlemen.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details are at our website. Until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.